All right, let's get into the psychology of one of pop culture's most misunderstood figures, the drill sergeant.
Yeah, forget the screaming bully you see in the movies. There's a method to the madness here.
So think less bully and more psychological demolition expert.
And they have a very precise mission: to demolish the entire structure of your civilian identity.
The real enemy in basic training isn't the recruit, it's the recruit's ego, the I.
Civilian life? It's all about nurturing the I. The military, though, needs the we to be everything.
In a combat unit, a soldier who thinks for themselves is a liability. They can get everyone killed. So the drill sergeant launches a systematic psychological assault to eliminate this exact threat.
And the intimidation, it's not just cruelty, it's actually a precision instrument, a tool.
A mind under that much stress becomes extremely open to being completely reprogrammed.
This whole thing follows a clear process, designed to bypass a recruit's rational, arguing mind.
The whole point is to make all of their old coping mechanisms totally and completely useless.
And this new reality has new rules. Sarcasm gets you push-ups. Logic gets you irrational fury.
This entire process, this whole thing, has a specific goal. It's called ego death.
It's the demolition of their civilian identity, designed to create profound psychological disorientation.
And the result of that, you get absolute, exhausted, and terrified compliance. But this demolition, this raising of the old foundation, it's not the end of the process.
In fact, it's just the beginning.
It's about clearing the ground for something new. Because before the soldier can be built, the civilian has to be raised to their very foundations.
So what's really going on when a drill sergeant is screaming in a recruit's face? You might think it's just pure rage, but nope, it's actually a calculated psychological tool. See, it's not about punishment, it's about tearing a personality down. Let's dig into how.
Yeah, this is no random screaming match. It's a system designed to demolish the individual ego.
Okay, tool number one is the most obvious one, just sheer, weaponized volume. The point isn't just being heard, it's about total sensory overload, literally short-circuiting rational thought.
This constant noise just throws you into a fight or flight mode. Your brain basically just gives up and obeys.
It's like a wall of sound, right? It totally isolates the recruit from their own thoughts.
So, once they can't think straight, the next step is to just erase who they were before.
I mean, every single marker of their old identity is just systematically stripped away, right from the start.
So you go from being a person, a civilian, to just being a recruit, a piece of the whole.
And look, they're not being metaphorical here. The goal is the psychological death of the individual.
How do you keep that control? Well, tool number 3 makes them feel like they're always being watched.
It makes recruits feel like the drill sergeant is this all-knowing, all-powerful figure. It's wild.
The secret? It's actually a network of junior instructors, creating the illusion of an all-seeing eye.
So that constant fear makes them police themselves. They basically become their own guards, 24/7. You put these 3 tools together, the volume, the identity stripping, the surveillance, and it's a perfect storm.
And that's the whole point, demolish the individual, to build a new collective identity from the ground up.
So why is it so harsh? You might think it's to break people, but that's not it.
The goal isn't to shatter individuals. It's actually to fuse them into an unbreakable unit.
In the main tool they use, well, it's something that feels completely unfair.
It's called group punishment, and it's a core and pretty brutal part of the training.
One recruit messes up, and the entire platoon pays. The lesson sinks in fast. You're all connected. This experience forces a massive psychological shift in every single recruit. It completely flips the switch in your brain from I to we, from solo survival to team survival. So recruits start policing each other, the group's success becomes their success.
All of this shared struggle, it creates a kind of psychological glue. It's a powerful thing called trauma bonding, born from that shared stress and hardship.
It's like they say, the I really does have to die for the we to be born.
The platoon becomes everything, your new family, your new identity. Which brings us back to the drill sergeant. He's the key to this whole thing.
See, he was never the real enemy. He was just the catalyst. His secret job was to be the common threat that forced everyone to become a team.
Is he just some out-of-control bully? Or is there something much deeper happening?
Well, it turns out the whole monster thing, it's just a mask, a totally calculated performance.
This isn't real anger at all. It's a completely exhausting role he has to play every single day.
So you see this huge gap, right? What we think is happening versus what's actually happening.
Think of him less as a bully and more like a master actor using emotion as a tool.
And get this, if the sergeant actually loses his temper, for real, he's failed his job. So the whole game is to project terrifying chaos while staying totally calm and in control inside.
And that takes an incredible amount of emotional regulation. It's the key to keeping the mask on.
Seriously, it's like a switch, flipped on at dawn and not flipped off until the day is done.
Now all this leads to a huge psychological turning point about midway through training.
For the recruits, it's a three-step journey. First, they're broken down. Then comes the shift. Then, reconstruction.
And his role changes. He goes from being the villain to this, well, toxic but effective father figure.
So after weeks of nothing but yelling, a simple phrase like this hits like a ton of bricks.
I mean, for recruits who've been starved of any praise, these words are absolutely massive.
And this is where you start to see a fundamental shift in what's driving the recruits.
It's not about avoiding punishment anymore. Now, it's all about earning his respect.
You know, this whole dynamic is kind of like a classic psychological thing. Stockholm Syndrome.
Because the end goal is to change that fear of him
into a desire to be just like him, disciplined, strong, totally in control.
And in this crazy psychological play, the monster, he becomes the ultimate role model. We've all heard stuff like this, right? Screamed at recruits during basic training.
But this isn't just about obedience. It's actually about a permanent psychological change.
When the training is over, the drill sergeant's performance ends, but the impact has just begun. He's effectively installed a piece of his own mind directly into the new soldiers.
This is called the internalized drill sergeant. It's the real reason for all that intimidation.
Okay, picture a soldier on the battlefield. They're exhausted, terrified. Every civilian instinct screams stop. But then, a voice echoes in their head, and it's not their own.
It's the drill sergeant's voice, which has now become the soldier's own engine of discipline.
This is exactly where that mental override happens.
That internal voice completely replaces the instinct for self-preservation with the imperative of duty.
So how does this software get installed? Well, it's not a lecture, it's psychological imprinting.
The lessons are literally burned into the psyche through stress, fear, and a deep-seated respect.
And the legacy of this imprinting, it goes way beyond the battlefield.
All that fear and respect for just one person gets transformed into something much bigger. It becomes a lifelong respect for the entire military structure, the chain of command, the uniform, everything.
This forces you to see the drill sergeant in a completely different light.
He is a brutal teacher, a controversial one, but also a terrifyingly effective one.
You could almost call him an artist, but his medium is the human mind.
And his primary tools for shaping that mind? Stress and fear.
His success isn't judged by comfort, but by how his students perform in the final exam, combat.
It's a paradox, right? A violent act of professional care, designed to forge strength.